Hi, this is Al from Albopepper.com, and it's the spring here in Zone 6. It's the middle of March, and these plants are going to be starting to break dormancy, my fruit trees. So before that happens, I want to get in some last-minute winter pruning to get them ready for the spring growth that's going to be coming along.
Here are the columnar apples, and something that's pretty neat. I saw all of these oathecas from the Carolina mantises. There are actually several of these that they decided to leave just right here on this one apple. Pretty cool. So hopefully these are viable, and we'll get some young little hatchlings in a couple months. Right here, I had in an earlier unboxing video, this had been cracked, and I'm happy to see that it's healing over nicely, so that's good. As far as the general health of these apples, they seem to be fine, and I don't see anything at this point that I even want to really trim on them. I'm just going to let them go and see what we get for this season. And now here is the Asian pear espalier, and looks like overall it did pretty well making it through the winter. I have this one shoot that's kind of hanging down. I don't like the direction that it's growing, so I'm definitely going to trim that off. So I'm just going to come in here and nip this. All of the tips, the terminal buds on all these main branches are fine, and they're able to keep progressing, except for this one. I saw that it's actually dead on the very, very tip there. So I'm going to be cutting that back and allowing the bud behind it to become, the new lead, and I'll just keep training that. But otherwise, there really isn't any type of major work to do on this at this point. And I'm going to come here and cut this right about like that. On this apricot, I had a lot of nice growth, and I really like the shape that I was able to get for this to provide a nice set of scaffolding branches that will provide my structure for the fruiting wood that I'll be hoping to get here in a year or so. But I am going to cut this down. Before I start to do that, something that I've been trying to read up on, and I wanted to share with you. On these branches, you get your growth at the meristem, which is the tip bud, and that bud that's on the very top is referred to as the terminal bud. So from that terminal bud is where all your growth comes. And a lot of times with the trees, what you'll find, especially the young ones, is that terminal bud actually inhibits the growth of the other buds that are down below. You see all these little side buds. Well, these are axillary buds, and those axillary buds don't shoot out a whole bunch of shoots because there's a regulating hormone or chemical from the plant from here that prevents that. So at the time that you would cut off your terminal bud, now that triggers these to be able to just branch out, and you get more of a bushy growth that could result from that, which is actually the reason why in the first place, when you're first setting these up like I did last year, why you can cut right here and then boom, you get all this like extra growth that comes out where there would have been one terminal bud that would have made a primary branch. Now there's a bunch of auxiliary buds that now are triggered to grow, and they spread out. But I want to push this all down. I want to cut all this down and allow that to spread out even more and give me a nice bowl effect, which will give me a good structure for holding all the fruit that I want to be able to generate in the future. This one is going to be really easy to do. These peaches that had not budded properly from the point I wanted them to, but instead made these branches from the side, well, that's going to be harder for me to come up with a good structure that fits with what I want. So it's going to be a challenge I'm going to try to work with and do the best I can, and hope that I can get the desired effect. But pretty much all these axillary buds send out growth. So now I have to try to manage that and try to get a shape. And it's the same with this one over here. I'm even going to have to probably get my loppers and just like cut this one. So let's see how that works out. So I'm going to start with the easier one to get things going. But whenever I trim these down to shorten these branches, I want to cut right above one of the buds. Now, the bud that is left, that is furthest to the top, a lot of times that's going to provide your directional growth, and the direction in which the branch now begins to grow will be from one of those buds. So if you have a bud that you leave at the top and it's pointed in, then you're going to usually get growth from that bud that's going to grow in that direction. So if you want things to start to grow out, then you have to find the appropriate bud that's pointed the direction that you want the growth to go. These hand pruners work pretty good. You get nice sharp pear Felcos or whatever other brand that you like. But at a certain point, you're going to get branches that are so thick that you're just going to be hacking at those. So you also need to have a pair of loppers. And what I think is probably easiest is to start out with the real thick branches, get the loppers and hit those spots, and then come in with your regular hand pruners after that. So this branch is really thick, and I'm not even going to try to use the hand pruner. I'm just going to go with the lopper and pick the spot, and then that'll be the height that I'll try to use for the other branches that I cut. So I think I'm going to cut this right here. The rest I should be able to do with some hand pruners. An important thing is to not have growth that's growing into the middle. You want the growth coming out, and you don't want branches crossing. So that's like 101. Anywhere you look, they're going to tell you that. So that's like the easiest thing to like look for. Obviously, in that case, I don't want this here. So I'm going to take that out. Now this will be like the basic height that I'll use to go by for my other branches. I like how this is starting to go out some, so I think I'm going to try to keep that. Maybe send it this direction. Send this out this way. I don't think I really want this on here. And I don't want this. So I'm going to try that, see how that goes. Alright, I've been putting off doing these peaches because of the crazy growth that I had, not really predictable the way I had hoped, but I have to deal with this. So I think I have a way that I'm going to address this. I'm going to work with the loppers first. Now I'll touch up everything, the hand pruners. see how that does. All right, I've been putting this one off, so I'm just gonna get these pruners in here and just do something. Feeling better already. That's it. Now that I've made all my final cuts and all my touch-up, let me just show you the basic shape that I have with each of these. Just trying to work with what I had. But you can see how, you know, there are these buds, these axillary buds that are now the ones on the very end and are going to send out the growth. I kind of tried to point them the direction that I want that growth to go, keeping it going outward. And here's my final shape with this, the nice apricot, and this one's not too bad, so I'm going to see how that works out as well. I definitely 100% for sure need to remove this middle one. I definitely don't want 3. Like, I'm contemplating whether or not I want to go down to 1 as opposed to 2, but this middle one, the last thing I'm going to be doing here in preparation is cutting out that middle one. So at least I've gotten that removed, and I'm glad that I did, because all summer this had never shot out anything out of any of the buds. There was no growth, and now as I cut it off, I can see that the wood had died, and there just was never going to be anything coming out of this. So it was just a big stub, kind of like a big stub cut that you might have where you have a big protrusion of dead wood that's attached, and I'm definitely glad that I got it out of there. And it was the same thing here with this peach, so I cut that one out in the middle here as well. I tried to do the best I could. It was really hard to get to that little trunk to cut it out without damaging anything else around there because of how tightly it was squeezed in there, but I think I did a decent enough job that it will be able to heal over. So we'll see. Well, that's pretty much it. I've completed all of my cuts, all my winter pruning. You'll want to subscribe and come back later to check out the follow-up videos to see what areas in my work worked out well, and maybe if there's some shortcomings, some things that we can learn from what doesn't work. I'll definitely be showing that, but I try to do this as well as I could with all the information available to me, and I wanted to share what I've been learning so far, and I'm definitely going to share my results. So thanks for taking the time to watch, and be sure to go to albopepper.com to get some cool ideas on different urban gardening things that you can try out in your area, and make sure you give me a thumbs up if you liked anything in this video.